We've got John Lamb down here with Kelly Stewart. Okay.
Wait for the signal. Sorry, guys.
John Lamb down here with Kelly Stewart. We're down here at the federal courthouse. We've got you an update today on the detention hearing. It's far from over yet. We're probably going to have a really long day. We've got a lot of information to go over with you. We're going to try to remember to do a couple of announcements before we're totally done here. But we'll start out. Kelly was in the courtroom today when in Cliven's detention hearing. It was denied right off the bat. We didn't even get a chance to really litigate it much at all. She just denied it. So Cliven is not going to get out at this time, at least not before trial. The trial is going to start. One of Cliven's daughters, it became a very emotional moment. His oldest daughter today broke down, and she was just obviously upset at the allegations that the prosecution brought against him, saying that he was not eligible for this pre-trial release. And go ahead.
And you know, she actually only became upset after they were removing her from the courtroom. So she did not have any explosions in the courtroom before they tried to signal her to be removed, simply because she was nodding her head no. She was nodding her head no because lies were being spoken from the judge. The judge wasn't speaking about the alleged accusations against Cliven Bundy. She was saying, because Cliven Bundy is willing to threaten federal officers and is willing to assault federal officers, which we all know he hasn't gone to trial. So how do we know if he did? That's for a jury of their peers to decide, not for the judge to decide. So that's really when Cherie shook her head no. She was not trying to have an outburst or do anything that was, you know, going to cause problems for her family. She just heard lies and her body responded naturally with, no, he didn't do those things. He didn't harm federal officers. And that's when they removed her, and she did speak truth in the courtroom, just like a Treason Bob did months back when he yelled treason from the courtroom. Cherie brought some of the first truth to the courtroom from the public's perspective, that the judge is lying, that her father has harmed nobody. He would not harm anybody. He has never harmed anybody. That these accusations that are being brought by the prosecution and confirmed by the judge are lies. And she stated that very clearly on her way out the door, and she is indefinitely removed from the courtroom. She cannot come back.
You know, I didn't hear nothing of her at all, no outburst at all from her, until the marshals actually surrounded her. So that part of hearing is kind of over with. And one of the marshals sitting up front just noticed her body language, shaking her head. And I never seen this. The courtroom was obviously peaceful, and the marshals actually went up to her, grabbed her, and brought her out. And that's when she actually bursted out crying and saying what her opinions were of this court and this judge.
And you know, when they removed her from the court, I did wait a second, but had to get up and follow her out because we could hear her still out in the hallway. And the marshals blocked me at the door and said, no, you do not need to go out there. And I said, move, I'm going out there, she needs a witness. And I said, you can follow me if you want, but move. And he did move and let me go out. But, you know, that's so interesting that she would be out there alone and that they would be trying to isolate her from having support. You know, I just wanted to be there as a witness. There was many marshals around her, and she was very, very upset. But they clearly did not want anybody around her when they were dealing with her out in the hallway.
Right at the moment, Ammon Bundy, when we left the courtroom, he had been on the stand. He had got up to testify on his own behalf in this detention hearing, and that's where we left the courtroom. That detention hearing for Ammon has been quite long this morning. Cliven's was real short. Ammon's has been lengthy. The government and the defense team is both arguing back and forth here. They are some heated discussions back and forth between them. Even the prosecutor, Daniel Sheese, pointed at Dan Hill and accused him of being young and ignorant about his filings and how bogus his motion was for the reasons that Ammon Bundy should be released here on pretrial release, and trying to prove that he lied in these motions. There was nothing in these lies at all. These motions from Dan Hill stated that Ammon has never been convicted of anything yet. He is innocent until proven guilty. He was not proven guilty in Oregon. He was not, hasn't been proven guilty here. Daniel Sheese brought up that he has been found guilty of 11 charges while he's been detained in Pahrump. Disciplinary charges. And he asked Ammon that question. And Dan Hill objected to it, but Ammon was allowed to go ahead and answer it. And he says, well, the prison told me they were not disciplinary. But now I'm being accused by the prosecution of disciplinary. It's not supposed to be disciplinary actions.
And they're trying to bring those things up to discredit Ammon, to say if he can't follow the rules of the jail, how is he going to do this? But here's the big kicker. He never committed to follow any rules when he got to the jail. He never committed to follow any rules for body cavity searches, to have his rights violated, to be denied access to his attorney, to be denied access to his legal material. He never agreed to that and made the commitment saying, I will follow these rules. Here in this courtroom today, he is saying, I will follow the rules of both state and federal that are put on me, and I will honor those. And he said, it is my word. My word is why I will honor those, because I'm telling you I will honor those. And the prosecution keeps wanting to go back to Pahrump, as though when he was arrested, as though he somehow gave his word that he would allow those guards to violate him the way that they have been violating him at both Henderson and out at CCA, Southern Nevada Detention Center.
And what was brought up today, he has never been hasn't been convicted of being violent in jail or a policy there. He has just simply told them, I will not comply. You take the clothes off of me if you want to do this. I'm not going to fight you. So he just hasn't obeyed their orders by just helping them violate him. That's right.
They're definitely trying to paint the picture that Ammon shouldn't be granted pretrial release, but the only two reasons he can be denied is because he's a threat to the public or because he is a flight risk. And yet we had the judge multiple times talking about, as she's slumped over in her chair, multiple times saying things like, well, what if people come to your house and they have alcohol? And you say, and of course the audience laughs because the Ammon Bundy doesn't drink. These men are devout LDS Mormons. They don't drink, they don't do drugs. And yet she's saying, well, what if somebody brings you alcohol? And I understand that he's willing to answer those questions, but at the end of the day, none of those things matter. Is he a flight risk, and is he a danger to the community? Not will he drink and get himself in trouble with probation services. If he does, he obviously gets taken back into custody. Those aren't grounds to keep somebody in jail because they might go out and drink when they're told that they can't drink. Oh, one thing. Dan Hill and his legal team, Rick and Morgan, pulled up some great arguments for his release. I was so proud of them. They cited all kinds of case law where murders have been granted pretrial release.
Federal murder cases.
Federal murder cases have been granted pretrial release, and he said, my defendant has no criminal record. He's harmed nobody. Clearly, there's grounds here for release. I thought that was good. That they
the only criminal record they're alleged here is that he has committed crimes in Pahrump while being incarcerated the last 2 years. That's the only crime that he has ever been found guilty of.
And even those are not violent, aggressive crimes. They're just, him not complying with helping them sexually violate him.
So after our break here, we're going to be back in court for the rest of the day. It could be quite lengthy. It might even go after 5 o'clock tonight, the way it looks. We're going to finish up with Ammon. Hopefully we'll get an answer today and he'll get released. That's what we're all praying for. Next will be Ryan Payne. He has a detention hearing here also today. And then last will be Ryan Bundy. So we're praying that the judge has a soft heart here and lets all three of those individuals go. We do want to make one point that Jason Woods, Micah McGuire, Dave Bundy, Mel Bundy, some of these attorneys, Joe O'Shaughnessy, all these attorneys showed up today in support of the other defendants that are still being held in Pahrump. They don't even have a trial date set yet. They're just being detained indefinitely. Their motions of being joined today was totally denied. And the judge says you can file another motion, but you can't join in this motion for those detainees to be released. So they're still going to be held.
She even went to the extent to talk about Oregon in her answer, saying, well, it's different because these guys, they were in Oregon and things that made no sense. He was saying, I'm here on behalf of these defendants, and we want to verbally file a joiner to be a part of this detention hearing, and she at the end of it just denied that outright.
We'll make two quick announcements here. Jerry DeLoomis, he has a birthday coming up November 25th. And if anybody can send him birthday cards, information, he's being held out in Massachusetts, and we'll try to post that address just shortly. Daryl Thorne also has a birthday coming up here on the 12th of this month, and I've talked to him multiple times. He could sure use letters of encouragement right now, a birthday card, whatever you can get over to him. He is being held in Portland, Oregon. So those are two of the announcements. We have some sentencing hearings next week in Portland, Oregon. For anybody who can show up there, it would be great if they could. Dwayne Emmer, he could use your support over there. We've got, what's that? Jake Ryan, Daryl Thorne, John Richtimer. I don't know when all their dates are right off the top of my head.
14th through the 21st.
We've got quite a few sentencing dates for those guys. So if you can show up in Portland, I may make it over there. I can't promise just yet. It depends on travel plans. Being here in Las Vegas, I may not be able to make it over there in time, but I'm going to try to make it to a few of them if I can, because they're kind of spread out over 10 days' time.
And then we have Seattle on the 20th for Skylar Barbeau's release, so people can make it to that. I'm sure I'll be in Portland for the 14th through the 21st sentencings, and my goal is to also make it to Seattle, but it gets tough getting all over the place, so if you guys could show up. Anybody wants to take on any of these people individually and commit to them and start reporting on them and letting people know what's going on with them, please do that and just tag us and we'll get it shared. But there's so many people right now with so many needs that it's pretty overwhelming to meet on all of them. I do want to point out what these guys are willing to comply with or give consent to in order to be released. They found a house here in Vegas within 15 minutes of the courthouse, a 4-bedroom house from a retired Metro officer who is committed to watch them and have them in his home.
He was in court today.
He was in court. They agreed to wear the ankle monitors. They agreed not to communicate with the public unless it was through their family. They agreed not to come and go as they please, but rather be on house arrest. Not to have visitors at the house. Of course, no drugs and alcohol, no firearms. To attend all of the hearings. But they're really stepping out there saying, we want to fight this battle. We want to make this work. We'll stay close to the court. Ammon said that if the pretrial detention services want to show up at any time, of course they're welcome to. If judge was saying, well, what if your ankle monitor isn't working and we have to check it? Are you going to not comply and say, well, I'll stand here, but I won't help you? So again, she's trying to take things that were more moral and sexual violations that they were protesting in the jail, and she's trying to twist that and say, now what if you don't comply with the ankle bracelet? When they really weren't in jail not complying with simple things like an ankle bracelet. They were simply saying, just because you told me to take off my clothes doesn't mean I can help you do it. That's a moral violation to me and a Fourth Amendment violation. I've done nothing wrong to warrant this search, so if you're going to strip me with a gun to my head, you're going to do it on your own. It really had nothing to do with them just being stubborn on their principles. One
of the questions the prosecution did ask on that line was, are you willing to set aside your morals or your principles if we let you out? So pretty much making them say they don't have principles or any principles they have to set them aside. But what Ammon replied with was that he would follow all orders of the court and that he would follow all federal and state laws as well. So they asked him, well, what if the prosecution is getting so dirty? They're saying, well, what if we go in, what if the BLM shows up to round up your cattle while you're on pretrial release? What are you going to do about that? Are you going to come and stand with your mom? I mean, they're really going below the belt here, trying to get him to say anything to get him to be held. And his answer was that if it was within his right or his agreement with pretrial services, that he would show up and peaceably assemble, kind of like he did before. And if they told him not to, he wouldn't do it. Yep. He said, but if I'm not allowed to, then I won't go. And they said, do we have your word? He said, yes, you have my word on that. So. Well, we have Jason Goodman all the way from New York, right? And he's came, I think this is his last day here. I got to meet him a little bit yesterday. It's been an awful tea down here, but I don't know if you have any questions or want to say anything here.
Well, one of the things that came through here in the live comments, people were saying that even after he was convicted, Jeffrey Epstein spent less time in jail for admitting to having sex with children than the Bundys have spent just awaiting trial. Ammon and Ryan announced that in Pahrump they were facing... Wait, sorry, someone just interrupted the stream. Let me just reconnect here, sorry. Sorry, we just had a brief interruption to the stream. So the point was that Jeffrey Epstein spent less time in jail for having sex with children. And Bundy's having just awaiting trial.
Yeah, Evan and Ryan noted that out in Pahrump they were facing the longest sentence of anybody there. The longest sentence, even for second-degree murder, was 25 years, and they were facing a longer sentence, and they were in the maximum security area with rapists and murderers. And here, they've never harmed a hair on anybody's head.
Now, I've never met Ryan. I hadn't actually seen him before yesterday, but he looked like he had some injuries. Is that anything that happened in jail?
Not that you can see physically. He does have a gunshot wound from when he was in LaVoy's truck. And his facial injuries are from an accident when he was 7 years old.
Yes. He was run over by a truck when he was a child. Okay. So he lost all feeling in half of his face.
Boy, tough guy.
He's a tough guy. Ryan's kicking butt in that courtroom. He's really dominating it, and then you put Ammon Bundy up on the witness stand, and you finally have truth being spoken in a courtroom that has heard nothing but lies and slander for way too long.
Ryan sounded like a lawyer.
Yep.
Yes, he does really good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Similar to the last trial when Eric Parker got to take the stand, and you finally had truth coming out, even though his truth was silenced and he was kicked off of his own witness stand testifying for himself. But
we did read off of, so Eric Parker and Scott Drexler's names were brought up today. We read off of their pretrial release sheets, agreements and stuff. We read off of those today for these guys. So that stuff was all brought up today about
asking if they would comply with even the agreement that Eric and Scott had. They were just going through everything. Is there anything they've missed that that they could throw at them to try to trick them into saying something that would make them continue being detained? And of course, they're willing to comply. This is the battle they want. This is in the courts. They want to fight it. They know they're going to win. So they're not running, and they're not going to hurt anybody in the meantime. They've got babies and wives that are out here waiting for them, and they need to be released. We, the taxpayers, need to quit paying for them to sit wrongfully in these holding centers, in our country. CCA, Nevada, Southern Detention Center nets $150 million a year profit. So go Google CCA prisons for profit and tell me why our federal tax dollars are going to allow basically human trafficking to be alive and well in the United States when we talk about stopping human trafficking. Slavery is alive and well, and the prisons are the new cotton fields.
Well, we got a long day ahead of us yet. We got to be back in court in just moments. It may be late this evening before we do another live update. It could be after 5 o'clock or even closer to 6, the way things are looking. So if that's the case, we'll try to send you out a message when we're going to have that. We may get somewhere where we can sit down and actually discuss these things more in detail of what all happened today and go through our notes and take some answers maybe from the public this evening. So if you can be down here and support. Keep praying for us from home. Whatever you can do, everything's appreciated.
Share these messages, tag people, let people know what's going on in these court systems, and get the message out. If you guys don't speak for them, then their voices are silenced within these prisons.
We'll see you back here tonight. Thank you.